Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology. Support for the Blockchain Show is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code BLOCKCHAIN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code BLOCKCHAIN.
Hello, thank you for listening to The Blockchain Show. I'm your host, Ethan Kinderconnect. I'd like to welcome you back. Today, I'm talking with the CEO of Cent, Cameron Hejazi. Cameron, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ethan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, it's great to talk to you. I'm really excited because there was a lot of buzz around NFTs, especially, I'm thinking, a couple months ago, maybe even a little further back, and it's still there, but it seems like maybe it's starting to settle a little bit, but I don't think it's going away ever. And if anything, I've been seeing some really big auctions of NFTs and that sort of thing. So I'm really grateful that you can be on the show today to kind of enlighten us a little bit, because we've talked about it only in passing. We've never really kind of dug deep into it. But since it's your first time on the show, if you wouldn't mind just saying a quick little hello to our audience and maybe giving us an introduction and how you came into this blockchain space.
Yeah, totally. What's up, everybody? So I'm Cameron, and I've been involved in the cryptocurrency space since 2011, 2012. Found out about Bitcoin and got red-pilled into the idea of decentralized systems. Bitcoin certainly wasn't the first, but the idea of tying a currency to it really gave it legs that, I hadn't seen before, and that inspired me to get involved. And I actually tried to build a bunch of things on Bitcoin, like apps on top of Bitcoin, experimenting with all of these weird sort of meta programming languages that hacked Bitcoin's data layer, but ultimately failed to really be expressive enough to be useful. And so I was pretty disenchanted by that. But then Ethereum came around and it was like, hey, this is the solution to all of your problems. And I got really excited about smart contracts and what they could do. And actually, at the time, I was working in advertising. So I was working for a digital media platform that helped publishers monetize the content that was posted to their sites via ads, integrating them with ad exchanges like DoubleClick for Publishers, AppNexus, things like that. And through that experience, I became very familiar with how the economics of content monetization on the internet work. And I became pretty disenchanted by it because, frankly, I think there's so much value that is being put out there and left on the table that ultimately is the audience and the creator's value, and it's just not being reflected properly back toward them, right? The starving artist metaphor lives on in the digital era, and I started Cent with the goal of trying to fix that. And so in 2017, Cent at beta.cent.co was formed, and the vision for that product was a social network where all of the actions that people took on a traditional network, like posting, replying, following somebody, had incentives wrapped around them. And each of these was an experiment for us. And so we iterated through a bunch of different experiments and got this community going who was, in general, interested in the idea of making money, but more broadly, really connected with the mission, that understanding that their actions did have value and trying to figure out ways to make it work. And so over time, what happened is more and more people started pointing us at this thing called NFTs. And they're like, this is the answer. This is what we want. And so we had our ears to the community and we were thinking, how do we as a company embrace this technology? We've been around for a couple of years now. We've been trying to iterate on a social network ourselves. What is going to happen with NFTs and how can we position ourselves to maximally serve people? And at that point, we had the realization that while our network is small and fun and very close knit, we need to kind of get out of it and into the larger world where people are already engaging and sharing content. And so we launched our NFT tweet service, Valuables, which enabled exactly that for Twitter. And that has been like an incredible run for us. We've gotten a lot of press and engagement around that. And it's just the start of what we think will be a lot of bridges built between Web 2 and Web 3, right? And I think that's something that we definitely cherish as a company, is the idea that, yes, while Web 3 is being built from the ground up and NFTs weren't a thing several years ago, there's an opportunity here to bridge all of the value that people have created over the past several years into Web 3. And so it's not just starting from scratch. And yeah, so that's kind of like from me to the company and where we're at now.
Yeah, well, that's a great background. Thank you for that. I love hearing these from different guests, and that is definitely a good one. It's interesting you bring up starving artists, because years ago I used to live in kind of like Burbank, Glendale area, and they'd have a starving artists sale, and I always thought that was kind of a cool thing. And then
what was so they were playing it up as a meme, but like, did they put money in the pockets? Was it like doing really well, or kind of what was the vibe like?
I don't know. This was like before I got into interviewing people, so I didn't want to like press them too hard.
Yeah.
But then down the road, I think it was under one of the freeways on, like Reseda or something. And there was, it could have been closer. I can't remember for some reason, but there was a guy who said it just had a big, all of his stuff, like on one side of the sidewalk. It said starving artist, and he was trying to sell his artwork there. And since then, it's become an encampment. I mean, you go everywhere, even in the valley now. There's tents everywhere, and I was just, for some reason, I was thinking, man, there's got to be more opportunity for these people who have talents and have skills. I know not everybody is an artist, but I'm sure there's plenty like him. Sorry for the tangent.
No, I think it's super relevant to where we're at today, because I think crypto as a technology is very groundbreaking, but also intimidating, inaccessible, confusing, right? It's so many things that kind of hold it back from being useful in a mass adoption scenario. And I think that that's part of the struggle that we take on as companies in this space, and not just struggle, but responsibility. In fact, that we need to be stewards that kind of act as the guide rails to show people how this technology can be used. Because at the end of the day, it's not NFTs for NFT's sake. It's really toward a goal of, income, connection, recognition, all of these other tangibles and intangibles that go beyond the technology itself. And we tend to get very sort of hung up on the technology because it is so groundbreaking, and it's hard not to.
Yeah, and I know earlier, just before we were recording, I mentioned looking at the price of the crypto this morning and getting a little depressed. But I very recently I started getting into more of buying some of the altcoins and kind of decentralized apps and their tokens, more so because I just didn't have a bunch of expendable income before to speculate on price. But lately, we have a lot of really cool guests and interesting folks like yourself come on, and I want to help support them. And I also want to get involved in projects I believe in. On one end, you can make a little bit of money, but on the other side, you can actually help support some of these different blockchains and secure their networks by staking. That, and like you said, don't look at the price. It's true, because it's a very short term and a shallow kind of place to be in. Because when I think about why I really got into this whole space, it was mainly just to it just seemed like I don't know, it's like a shift in humanity. Maybe that's a little bit too romantic, but you mentioned it's still largely inaccessible to a lot of folks. Once it becomes more accessible, I think, or maybe it's already happening and I'm just not aware of it, but I just think it's really going to start changing things to where like the starving artists can utilize, some of these technologies to help lift them out of their situation and then focus more on their artwork.
Totally.
And NFTs in general, for a while I was walking around calling them non-fungible tokens and everybody's eyes would like glaze over. So that's a good, simple, I don't know if you'd call it a marketing thing.
What you're saying, about getting involved in these projects and with that sort of expendable income, being able to get skin in the game, It really is something that is truly groundbreaking. It's really the co-op model at scale, right? These organizations are forming where people are co-owners of the network or of the protocol and have things like governance rights and ability to participate beyond just using the product. I think that that's something that is a vision, is a future that we are all very enticed by and like want to will into reality. And so I think it's really great that you're doing that. And, I think NFTs are another example of how that could happen, even though we haven't really seen it in practice yet, because some of the properties of co-ops and equity are more like tokens that are fungible versus tokens that are non-fungible. But I think that's something that we'll also start to see as well over time is NFTs representing things like membership interests or rights built on the application layer on top of ownership.
Yeah, and Scent had a lot of coverage back when the integration into Twitter and when Jack Dorsey's first tweet sold for like, well, it was like almost $3 million or something like that, wasn't it? I mean, it was in all these like
2.9.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, and everyone was kind of that wasn't too into cryptocurrency was thinking like, what? You can buy a tweet? Yeah, I remember just talking. It was just kind of funny, like being in Starbucks and just hearing about other people's conversations.
Totally.
Tell me about that this whole coverage that you've received and how that's impacted you in your business.
Frankly, we've tried not to let it get us too distracted. Obviously, it was a huge sort of press cycle, and we wanted to make sure that security, the app, our responses to things were all kind of like premeditated and really, really to the T. To that end, it kind of like pushed our roadmap back a little bit and put everything in this lockdown mode, because I don't know if you remember, but like he signaled that he was going to sell it 2 weeks before he actually accepted the offer. And so there's a bunch of bidding activity. He tweets out the link to the auction page. And then he says, in 2 weeks, I'm going to accept it. So from that moment until when the auction actually closed, there was stress levels were pretty high internally. We were trying to make sure that like nothing fucked up. It was funny because we were really concerned, like, is Jack going to know to like install MetaMask? Is he going to figure out how to autograph this thing and do it? And in the end, yeah, like without our hand holding or anything, he got set up and he signed the tweet and it went onto the blockchain. But yeah, it was a crazy time. And for us, we're just really grateful that like, I think part of it was that NFTs were also like, you could argue that was sort of the peak NFT hype at the time, right? The auction with the people through the $69 million sale. And there was just a lot of activity happening. And so to be able to be a part of the conversation and to be able to reach people on Twitter, which we had, designed for, but to see it play out as successfully as that was definitely nothing short of exhilarating for us in that moment. But frankly, I'm a bear market maximalist. I like to really be focused when there's not a lot of hype. And I think part of that is just because there's this just baseline anxiety that comes with having a lot of attention, having a lot of interest, having a lot of all this sort of fervor around the moment that is being directed at 1,000 different things and maybe not the most focused. And so I'm glad that things have cooled off a little bit. That means that we internally can like focus less on things like price and headlines and really get back to building. And so definitely though, wouldn't trade the past couple months for anything. It was nothing short of crazy for us.
I can only imagine. I think that when things kind of level off a little bit, I can sense the anxiety going down. I mean, I follow a lot of these things, but I'm not as, obviously it's not like I don't own companies. I don't have people to employ. So I can only imagine the level of feelings associated with it. But on the flip side, I think the blockchain and cryptocurrency industries have been wanting kind of this validation for years that I think is well-deserved.
Absolutely.
It comes in these like peaks and crests of intense coverage and hype, and then we'll see prices spike and then crash, and then it's almost like a course correction of I don't know what you call it. It's kind of like weeding out the people who are there just to make a quick buck, and then we can kind of get back to the work, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, the part that really gives me the most anxiety is that, with crypto markets, like back with the fungibles, right? What ultimately was happening was the price was going up, going down, and who were the stakeholders? Well, it was a bunch of sort of highly employable protocol engineers, team members, crypto economic experts, things like that. As we enter NFT land, we're going directly to people who are trying to create for a living, who might not have as many sort of alternate sources of income, who might be making an investment in their future by doing something like creating an NFT or committing to an NFT platform, things like that. And so the closer that we get to really being able to reach these people and bring them into the economy and bring them up, the more risk we take on. And so something like a bear market for the creative economy and for non-fungible tokens, in my mind, has drastically different implications than a bear market for the next sort of proof of stake blockchain or higher throughput blockchain or some very technical application where the people who are working at that organization might be like well off, very employable, have cushy salaries, things like that. And so I think that's the part that really kind of puts me on edge and like really wants to build long term and build for stability, because ultimately this is about establishing trust and onboarding the creative economy into this space. And if we're going to have these big capitulations happening, it's just not going to be good. It's not going to be, we're not going to be able to win their trust.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Early when we started the podcast in, I think 2016, we had a few, or maybe just, I can't remember, I think it was called Ujo Music. They were developing smart contracts to
ahead of its time.
Yeah. And that was kind of a cool concept, but I don't really see as much about smart contracts and musicians. If you wouldn't mind kind of telling the difference between NFTs, smart contracts, and maybe some of the more unknown use cases for NFTs other than, artwork and text and things like that.
Well, first, an NFT is like, it is a type of smart contract. It is a sort of standardized smart contract that has been adopted by a lot of the players in the creative space. But there are many other types of smart contracts. And I think actually one of the best examples of showcasing the versatility of smart contracts is this company Mirror, or this DAO Mirror. I don't know if they're a formally incorporated entity or what, but their website is mirror.xyz. And what they're focused on building is Legos that you can piece together in whatever way you like to basically operate a DAO around media and the things that you're creating. And so an example of a smart contract that they have is a split contract. And what that enables is you send money to an address and it gets split up among the various people who are listed as beneficiaries in that contract. And so that can plug in as the output of an NFT sale. So you can have an NFT that gets auctioned and sold, and the proceeds go into this split contract that enables the people who might have collaborated on it to go in and take their money. And this differs from the traditional model of one NFT, one monetizer. And so that's an example of some of the versatility of smart contracts. They're doing a bunch of other stuff as well that's really interesting. And so I would encourage anyone listening to check them out. But in terms of NFTs, the way I think of NFTs is it is really the standard for data ownership on the internet. So pre-NFTs, everything that you did was in some sort of walled garden, right? In an AWS server or a Google Cloud server. And if, let's say, Medium were to shut down tomorrow, they would say, okay, download all of your blogs and we're going to erase everything, and you're no longer going to have access to your data. And so it'd be on you to kind of retrieve your data. And oftentimes sites have shut down and people have missed the window and they've lost access to the things that they've created or the things that they value. And with NFTs, there's an opportunity to break out of that silo, to put what it is that you're creating or what it is that you're collecting into an ecosystem that is permanent in nature. This is infinite ownership. The promise of blockchains is that you're creating a ledger for forever, right? Satoshi's coins aren't going anywhere because we know that we're always going to keep track of Satoshi's coins. We know that that data is going to live on forever. And so NFTs extend the promise that Bitcoin made about currency to just anything. And really, most of the things in our life are non-fungible, right? The couch that you might be sitting on or the desk that you're at, these are all non-fungible items. And so in a digital sense, non-fungibles have been extended with the same properties that crypto has or cryptocurrency has. And that's the way that I tend to look at it is an NFT doesn't necessarily have to be art. It could be something like a ticket to an experience or a receipt of a transaction. It can be all of these different types of things. And the data that you choose to embed into the NFT is entirely up to you. And so I really see it as a primitive for digital ownership of whatever you want and whatever application developers and creators and builders want to make. And so I know that that's like pretty broad and vague, but I think that just speaks to kind of where we are at in the industry in terms of embracing this tech, because it will not, in my mind, end with art. It will not end with memes and things like that. It's much broader in my mind than all of those.
Very good. Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate the explanations. It's such an interesting and profound concept that kind of like with my kids, my wife and I have these books, like scrapbook kind of things where we write down memories and glue in pictures of kind of moments of their lives before they can really remember, so that when they get older and if anything were to happen to me, they can go back through this book and kind of like get caught up. And it just makes me wonder in the future if people can do that as NFTs and share, like you said, tickets and those, maybe it could be like, I don't know, maybe humanity's backup memory in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, as we fulfill this vision of the metaverse, which is a place that you can live, work, and play virtually and natively, like not even backup, in some cases, maybe primary. This is where it gets really interesting, kind of converging into this transhumanist future where our physical selves are extended by this digital component, right? You can imagine an AR environment that you walk around in, and there's an overlay in the physical world of these digital artifacts and digital items that maybe you've put there or your friends have, or someone that you've allowed to enter into this virtual space. And so I think it is very possible that the systems that are being put in place today, while very early, are intended to last very long and serve those purposes, like you're saying, whether it's archiving a scrapbook so that you can look at it whenever you want in whatever context you want, or even building up a career and having things like accreditation of the work that you've done or the output that you've produced as your sort of ticket into your next job, right? These are the types of applications that are really going to start to change people's lives in more foundational ways, like disrupting things like higher education and sort of more foundational parts of society. And to me, that's where like the really zoomed out view of where this space is going, like really gets me excited, because that's all about digital identity, right? Who you are as a person, what your references are, what you've done, and the ability to control all of that ultimately is the most important thing that all of these Web2 companies have neglected to date. And even though directionally there's intent to kind of course correct and turn their data as a liability into data as empowerment, they're falling way short compared to the paces that blockchain is making and the decentralized community is making.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Speaking of tweets that have been impactful, I'm sure we remember Elon Musk tweeting about the environmental impact of Bitcoin, and some people believe that had a bit to do with last month's kind of downtick in the price of some of the popular cryptocurrencies. It's definitely been a conversation that's been coming up over the years about how much energy it takes to mine Bitcoin and some of the other coins. I was reading something about Cent leveraging technology. Was it with Polygon to kind of reduce?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe tell us about that.
Yeah. So we understand that Ethereum's fee market is still like under rapid development, and that oftentimes that can lead to like bad user experience and congestion. And that was really what spurred our investigation into alternative layers or layer twos like Polygon. And then we realized on top of that, there's this added benefit that the operating costs of proof of stake chains is much lower than proof of work chains. And so we, as part of our tweet initiative, put all of the tweets that were created using valuables onto Polygon, a layer two. And it's really exciting to see the community rally around that as sort of one of the steps into the future, because, for instance, OpenSea is integrating with Polygon as well. So the tweets will show up on OpenSea, and a lot of activity, trading activity, has migrated over to Polygon. And I think part of the benefit of Polygon versus other L2 ecosystems is that it's fully Ethereum compatible. So anything that you write in Solidity can easily be deployed, whether it's on Ethereum or on Polygon. And so we've been able to really take advantage of that ecosystem and use it as a force for good, not only on the environmental impact and not only on the cost side of things, but also on the end user side of having it so that, you know, Jack doesn't have any cryptocurrency, but he still managed to mint a tweet. And the reason that we are able to do that is because we, the company, were able to front the costs, not only for him, but for thousands of other tweets that have been created through our platform, because of the low cost infrastructure that ultimately funnels down to the efficiency of the infrastructure. And so it's really inspiring to see these ecosystems kind of like take flight. And I'm also hopeful about Ethereum and their transition to proof of stake. Obviously, Ethereum is a very complicated Rube Goldberg machine that is also an airplane flying in the sky being operated on. So it's a little bit different of a beast. And I think for the developer's perspective, it's all about what works today, now, and kind of can be reliably, predictably working in the next 6 to 12 months. And so for that, we identified Polygon, and it's been great working with them so far. But long term, we are excited to see how the proof of stake rollout works for Ethereum and the transition to a more greener network security process.
Right. Yeah. Because our generation is kind of in between modes of energy over the past century. You know, there was like current wars, there was energy wars. I mean, for a while you couldn't even buy ethanol gas because the oil industry saw it as a threat. But now we're starting to see, you know, more and more of those stations popping up, and a little bit too late. But electric cars driving around, they can utilize sunlight from solar panels. They don't have to necessarily, you know, tie into the grid and use fossil fuels. And I know each part of the world is, or, you know, region is different about how they generate electricity, but even just reducing that down further with Polygon and some of these other methods it's pretty ingenious, just to kind of help us get to where we need to be.
Yeah, Bitcoin is definitely very controversial in that it requires a huge amount of this exogenous resource, this electricity, to come in. You know, the proponents will say that it incentivizes sort of cheap electricity discovery and pricing and production, which I'm sympathetic to that argument, right? Like, let's race toward green energy. But at the same time, you see the success of proof of stake models where there is no exogenous component. It's more that, you know, you stake the asset of the platform that you are integrated with and transacting on. And that model seems to have been proven out at this point and is really gaining traction. And so it really does start to cast questions about Bitcoin's intense energy consumption. I'm personally sort of undecided on the whole thing. I'm more of an observer, and I vote, if you will, with the choice of platform that we use, because you know, in the moment of indecision, I guess it's best to kind of go with the safe route. And so we've chosen to go with the safe route, which is Ethereum, and then by extension Polygon for our transactions.
Yeah, I totally get it. I'm a big fan of those two, and following it with great interest as we await Ethereum 2.0. It's a funny analogy about working on an airplane while it's traveling. I can only imagine the
Complexity.
the great minds at work. Yeah, I mean, I think like for the young kids listening who are interested in getting involved with developing, and what a huge, almost unlimited area to get into.
Absolutely. And I think if someone is interested in getting involved, I think the best place that I would recommend is check out Gitcoin. So many companies, Cent included, have engaged with bounties on Gitcoin, and it's a great way for someone just to familiarize themselves and get exposure to the ecosystem, exposure to the types of projects in the space from a developer's perspective. I think that the team has done a really great job of building out that platform. And they've actually recently launched their own token as well. So it's cool to see that stakeholder model built into the process of their developer ecosystem. So that's where I would recommend everyone check out if they're a developer interested in getting involved.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll definitely put that in the show notes. Well, cool, man. You got one more question for you. We've already kind of talked about ownership. What about community and identity? How are you foreseeing NFTs to kind of facilitate those two?
Totally. I think that community and identity actually kind of go hand in hand, right? So with NFTs, you're taking your identity or the things that you make or any arbitrary data that relates to you, and you're putting it into the blockchain. You're putting it on this ledger where others can kind of look at it, interact with it. And then the part where community forms is around taking that data and either gifting it or selling it or fractionalizing it and issuing it to any number of people, right? So putting your NFT on the blockchain, that's your sort of expression of identity. That's signaling to everyone that this is me, this is who I am, this is what defines me, at least the me that could be associated with its Ethereum address. And then community forms around giving ownership to that piece of you. And so they kind of go hand in hand, right? And so in a sense, the NFT community has already engaged in these values. And we see our role as really just accelerating that, accelerating the rate of NFT production, accelerating the rate of NFT ownership. Because in our view, it's not so much about the 2.9 million or the $69 million sales that happen. And while those are great in terms of, expanding awareness, it's also arguably not the type of awareness that we need to be putting in people's minds, creating these expectations of high performance, high value sales. What we really think is foundational for this next era and for digital identity is, rather than focusing on the price, really focusing on building a robust identity, building a robust community. And that really takes not one big sale or a few big sales, but really just getting a lot of yourself tokenized and a lot of yourself into the hands of other people and co-creating and collaborating. And so that's our riff on identity and community. And so, yeah, we're definitely very interested in ramping up the pace at which people start to tokenize things and give them out to other people or sell them to other people.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And Cameron, I just wanted to thank you for coming on the podcast today and
absolutely
talking with me a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So I know the website is cent.io, but is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so it's actually cent.co. We get that a lot though. So all is forgiven. Sorry. Yeah, so cent.co and valuables is at v.cent.co, and our community platform is at beta.cent.co. So be sure to check those out. Oh, and if you want, follow us on Twitter at Cent.
Well, Cameron, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I just want to thank you again, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Likewise. Thank you, Ethan.
Support for the Blockchain Show is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. It's definitely an age thing, I'd say. Like, what's the cutoff? Is it... You're an elder millennial. You're probably right at that cutoff. What's the generation below you?
You.
What?
Gen X.
I'm above you.
Oh, Generation Y? No, Z. I'm actually Generation Y, but they called us millennials.
Oh, okay. So it's safe to say that Generation Z, when is theirs?
They don't even have hair. Like, they just never got it.
Okay, so younger millennials and why? I mean Z.
You can shave your balls with confidence. The last time I shaved my balls before Manscaped, I cut them with a trimmer from CVS.
Oh, please tell us the story.
It was bad. I plugged it into the wall, thinking it'd be good to not need batteries. And I cut my nutsack open,
Ooh.
and there was nut blood everywhere.
Not blood.
You don't want to see your own nut blood. And you don't want to snip one of those tubes. I mean, if there's one place you don't want to cut, it's your balls.
That's very true.
So you don't have to worry about that with
I mean, we're
Manscaped.
laughing about it now because we know you're okay and everything's functioning fine.
And we have kids,
Yeah,
so it worked out. But
but true.
I didn't use a trimming product for years until Manscaped, and the lawnmower just cut right through, no problem. Trim with confidence with skin-safe technology.
How about that waterproofness? That's pretty clever.
And there's a light.
Yeah,
I thought that the light was not a big deal until I was in the shower, and
that's pretty clever because not everybody is well lit in the shower. The shower seems like it's the logical place to do such a thing. Yeah. Well, actually, one thing we can definitely say with utter confidence is that if you have been using the same shaver on your face that you do on your nuts, you might be doing it wrong.
you might smell different.
Yeah, but also it is a bit of ancient wisdom to just not put things from the undercarriage up on the face if we're going for cleanliness. And
Never go ass to mouth.
that's right.
There's different bacteria.
Right. Thank goodness for the lawnmower to save us from all sorts of cross-contamination.
And all the people that lick each other's buttholes are like, what's the problem? You don't want to get an ingrown hair, though, from your butthole germs
No.
on your face.
Right. Yikes.
You can get staph infections.
Now it's getting pretty serious. Yeah, but in all seriousness, though, as well, I do appreciate the lovely smells that came with that. They are nice. I'm a very sensitive person, and if you ever wear deodorant that's got any kind of a chemical in it that does not, don't like it. I love you, but I can't be around it.
You can't even be around Myers Clean Day.
Oh,
Soap.
get that out of the house. But no, this stuff does smell good. It actually does. It smells manly. It smells good.
There's ball wipes.
Yeah. You're like a kid with this special package you got.
Oh, it is like Christmas. Thank you, Manscaped. I got the cleanser, the crop cleanser, hair and body wash. Smells great.
Yeah. Kudos on presentation as well. The black and gold.
Oh, it's great. I mean,
So sleek. So
Packaging.
sophisticated.
it's fantastic. Golden. The boxers are incredibly soft. I don't know if it's my imagination, but the shirt smelled good. It was just me after taking a shower. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, anti-chafing.
Ball deodorant.
Yeah, you're gonna need that. I love how everything smells good and uniform.
It does. It does. It smells very manly, like classic manliness.
I'm used to having like different deodorant smell and different aftershave smell and different cologne. Oh, look at that. A Crop Reviver refreshing ball toner. I sprayed some of that
Refresh those balls.
when we were out there. I was complaining.
Oh, that's
Nice.
the smell of a manly
Hit it
ball.
with that. Man, I felt amazing. Like my balls did thank me. I'm not even kidding. It was,
You did. I was very visible. You were like excited about it,
yeah, we were on the trail doing some filming and
and you revived your balls.
I did. You can check out the video, but not that part.
Yeah, we were working up a sweat, and those balls got revived.
We got the Foot Duster cooling foot deodorant. And as mentioned, the Crop Mop ball wipes.
This smell, I wonder how they got their smells, but it's very, it's like something that it's like a man from World War II would smell like.
Yeah, and this wireless charger is there's nothing.
That's
It
mystifying.
just goes in there, and then they give you this really nice braided USB-C cable.
It's like the charger of the future.
Check out that cable. That's good just to have. Charge your other stuff, but yeah, turn that bad boy on. Let 'em
let's
hear
hear
the RPMs on that sucker.
Whoa.
Yeah. I chopped through 2 years of growth. Probably 3 years, no problem.
Wait, so 3
Yeah,
years
that was
ago?
on my
Is it
balls. You might want to be careful.
I'm not worried about it. Your balls are now very attractive.
I
They
washed
always
them
were attractive.
several times. I didn't want to get my new razor dirty. It's a cool thing, and it's got the multifunction button. I figured out you can turn the light on and off. When you hold it down, you can put it in travel lock.
I like the little
Get like 90 minutes of use out of that.
logo on the back. Was it a little scary in the beginning? Tell me the truth.
Well, yeah, because I was remembering last time I cut my ball sack open.
You were scarred, emotionally at least.
You can see they got the little guard here, and you're supposed to put the flat side against your skin. But they got other products too for people that like to shave it clean. They've got I think it's like the Plow 2.0. Shave your balls. They've got another straight safety razor. They've got the weed whacker for your nose and ear. I think I'll get that for my dad.
Yeah, I'm going to get that for my dad.
I'm sure by the time most people are listening to this, it's going to be past Father's Day. So if you forgot, you can still do it. Your dad's still going to be grateful. I mean,
He's still going to have that ear hair and nose hair. It needs some help.
I'm starting to get a lot of that. You wouldn't
You
notice
can't be for real.
the nose hairs.
Well, you are a dad.
You could pick them out. I would pick them out one at a time.
What?
And then I would my eyes would get all closed. And
There are some men that are definitely more attuned to grooming, and you're one of them.
I got I had an off-brand nose trimmer, and it would catch the hairs.
Yikes.
So it'd be like grabbing a bunch at one time and pulling them out.
So it wasn't trimming, it was yanking.
It was yanking a few.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I want to try theirs.
Yeah. Just off the record, how old were you when you had this fateful nut blood experience?
We were here. It was in this house.
Wow, really?
It was within
How do I
the
not
last
know about
5 years.
this? You just want to keep it
It's
secret
not
from
something
me?
I want to come and say like, "Hey, look what I just did to my balls."
Well,
I just remember doing it and thinking, "Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore." So then I had a bush for like 3 or 4 years.
look at this. You got. I mean, let's be honest. You were very excited about this.
And it did not disappoint. You can tell they put a lot of effort into this, a lot of research.
Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code blockchain at manscaped.com. Don't forget, blockchain at manscaped.com.